Okay, Roger, the stage is all yours.
Okay, well, yeah, I think the title was supposed to be the differences between business developers or the synergy, the importance of developers, both business and software developers. And I've been in this cryptocurrency space for a while, and I've noticed not so much in the Bitcoin Cash community, but mainly from that other Bitcoin community, a bunch of software developers mocking people who aren't software developers. But I think that they're not seeing the big picture there, right? Like software developers are incredibly important. If there's nobody to write uh, the software won't exist, and then people won't be able to use it. But the reverse is true there as well. If there's nobody wanting to use the software, what was the point of the software? So you need both business developers and software developers. And where the business developers I think are so important is that they have a much, to make broad generalizations, business developers have a much better sense and finger on the pulse of what it is that users actually want to be able to use in their daily life. And so, like an example of this that we've seen in Bitcoin for a while now, you'll see a lot of these, software developers say, "Oh, it's easy to calculate the fee. You just look at the current state of the mempool, and then you see, what that is and what the other people are bidding in the mempool, and then you can see, okay, what price do I need to pay in terms of satoshis per byte, and then you calculate, oh, my transaction has 5 inputs, so it's going to be a little over a kilobyte. So that means I'm going to have to pay this many satoshis times that many kilobytes and calculate it all out. And like for software developers, maybe sometimes that's fun or interesting for them. For the normal person that just wants to buy, something on Purse.io and save 20%, they don't want to have to deal with any of that. So we need the business developers to let the software developers know, hey, you need to hide all of that complex stuff from the end user and focus on that sort of thing. Or another example of this too, like, and this is all supposed to be our happy celebration today, but we've seen some in the Bitcoin Cash community recently, some software developers talking about they want to make up for previous drift in the issuance of Bitcoin Cash. And so they want to have the block time change from 10 minutes to 11 minutes for the next 5.5 years. If as a software developer, maybe that's fine or interesting or even fun. As a business developer, that's a bad user experience you're causing. Right now, the average block confirmation time is supposed to have been 10 minutes for the last 10 plus years of Bitcoin. Now suddenly it's going to be targeting 11 minutes. That means people are going to have to wait more than 10% longer for their transactions to be confirmed on average. That's detracting from the user experience. It's not a huge detraction, but it's a detraction nonetheless, and there's no benefit whatsoever that I can see as both a user and a holder of Bitcoin Cash myself. So I think that's an example where the business developers should let the software developers know, hey, you're developing something that the users don't care about and don't want and aren't interested in, and it won't make a difference. And we should be spending that time and effort and resources on developing things that users actually want. So things like, super fast, super cheap, super reliable confirmations for their transactions. And so I think there needs to be less animosity, not more animosity, between the software developers and the business developers, because it absolutely takes both. And if you don't have the software developers working and talking closely with the business developers, you're going to have the software developers building a product that the actual end users aren't going to care about or want to use at all. So that's where I would really like to see more collaboration going on within the Bitcoin Cash community. Is let's have the business developers talking with the software developers about what sort of things the users are actually going to want or the businesses are actually going to want or need, so that the software developers can focus on those things rather than on intellectual experiments that maybe are interesting for some of these software developers, but don't make the user experience better for Bitcoin Cash or the people that are actually trying to use it. So the main things that I see problems on the Bitcoin Cash network. Let's get rid of the 50 unconfirmed transaction chain limit, and let's make the unconfirmed transactions as irreversible as we possibly can through whatever consensus method is the most useful for that. Those are the things that I think are holding Bitcoin Cash back the most. And then software developer tools too. Like as a business developer, I want to see as many software developers building on top of Bitcoin Cash as possible. So the mainframe guys, I think it's mainframe.cash, and I'll feel horrible if I'm goofing that up. They have a Flipstarter, I'm sorry, mainnet.cash. So flipstarter.mainnet.cash. they're doing a fundraiser to try and build a bunch of awesome software developer tools to make it even easier for the software developers to build their businesses on top of Bitcoin Cash. So you can go and donate over there. Bitcoin.com already put up 200 Bitcoin Cash to get things started towards the goal of 750 Bitcoin Cash. I think it's over 300 and something Bitcoin Cash have been committed so far using Flipstarter. And Flipstarter is another really cool tool that I'm a fan of. If you haven't clicked around and looked at how Flipstarter works, it's really amazing. Basically, you can have people fundraise together, but you don't have to give the money until you know that the target of the fundraising amount is going to be reached. Otherwise, you don't have to give anything at all. So it's a really cool way to fund, public goods or public works projects. And so I'm a big fan of that as well. So I think I've summed up most of what I wanted to say in about 5 minutes there. But the long story short, let's make sure that the business developers and the software developers are working together and not against each other. Because that's how we can move the whole ecosystem forward, because we need both business developers and software developers. And if you only have one without the other, you're going to be dead in the water. You need to have both, and you need to have both of them working together as a team, not fighting with each other, not attacking each other. They need to be working together to build the products that the world wants to use. So if people have questions, or if George wants to elaborate on that as well, from what he's seen being in the crypto space for a long, long time as well, I'd be happy to hear other people's thoughts as well. But or what other people want to see in the space. What are the missing tools that people don't have yet that they want to see built by both the business and the software developers?
All right. So, guys, you can join the Zoom stream. The link there is in the chat. Come on and have a conversation, ask a question, or you can ask a question in the chat. I definitely think that the overall in the crypto space, the software guys rule the roost. As a business guy, like it can be quite hard to get through to the guys who are actually making the software. I've seen a lot of projects where it's just software guy, sitting in his basement or something, just coding stuff up, like not even a point of contact with the outside world to see if it's needed or if the UX is on, or any kind of systematic approach. Yeah, so here we have a couple comments. I also love the mainnet Flipstarter. Let's see. Yeah, give us some questions.
Well, I have some fun thing, because we know we have lots of hardcore Bitcoin Cash people on here listening. So I just use gifts.bitcoin.com. If you haven't seen that yet, I think it's such a powerful tool to spread Bitcoin Cash adoption. And if I may, I'm going to share my screen and give away some Bitcoin Cash to the people that are viewing. But what I'd like to ask them to do is to pay it forward. So I just made $25 Bitcoin Cash things using gifts.bitcoin.com. I just funded it here. And if we scroll down, you can see here are the gifts right here. So anybody that's watching on the live stream, and I think that there's a slight delay there as well, you can just scan this with the bitcoin.com wallet by hitting settings and then Sweet Paper Wallet, or you can use any other wallet that's able to import private keys. So I think the blockchain.com wallet supports that. I think the Bread wallet supports it. I think Electron Cash supports it. There's quite a few out there. So any wallet that can sweep a private key, you just scan this, and then you can have the money will go literally from the live stream right there to your phone, just like that. And then, pay it forward, give some Bitcoin Cash to your brother. Or if you go and look at some of these right here, you can download an image, you can download the private key directly, or you can email it to somebody, right? So, George, what's your email address? You want $5? So,
me at georgedownley.com. It's E, yeah.
I spelled it right, yeah.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So, here you go. So, free BCH. There you go. So that one we've now sent to George via email, and he'll receive an email in just a second there. And look, you can see people have already claimed some of these here on the screen behind me. So email sent. So somebody claimed the bottom couple there. I don't know why I haven't claimed the top. Here's some more we'll put on the live screen here, live stream. And so as people go and scan those, they'll show up on chain. And so this is a really neat example though too, while I'm busy sharing my screen. So someone claimed another one there already. If we go and look over at, let's see, bitcoinfees.cash, you can see the average network fee on Bitcoin at the moment is $4.72, so almost $5, right? Whereas on Bitcoin Cash, it's less than a penny. So each of these here are $5. What that means is that you wouldn't really be able to claim it at all. You'd receive 30 cents if you tried to do this with Bitcoin. And then once you have 30 cents, you wouldn't be able to spend it at all because you'd need $5 to send the 30 cents, right? So this is a really, really powerful example of how you can send money to new people. And here's a couple more that haven't been claimed yet up here as well. And so you can send Bitcoin Cash to people who've never, ever had it ever before via email, via live streams, via Twitter, direct messages. Like I've actually been sending these to people. I see some of these people on Twitter that don't really know or understand Bitcoin Cash, or they think it's a scam. I send them $5 via Bitcoin Cash just by copying one of these images and sending it to them in the Twitter direct messages. And you can't do that on Bitcoin. It's simply not possible. So I think a lot of people just don't understand the power and the convenience of on-chain transactions just like that. So you can see almost all of them have been claimed here as well, although here's a few more that people haven't claimed. So anyhow, get out your phone, scan those, you can claim those, and there's another one got claimed. So it's really neat. You can see in real time as people manage to claim these things. I think that's a really big deal for the world. So anyhow, I ask you guys that are claiming this out there on the live stream, pay it forward, right? Send this $5 to other people. Send it to, via direct message on Twitter, send it via email. And the really, really cool part about this though too, is you'll notice it says claim by September 1st, 2020. If nobody had claimed these by a month from now, the money goes right back to my wallet or whatever wallet you specify when you set this up using gifts.bitcoin.com. You can specify a refund address. And the way that works is bitcoin.com never has your private keys. All bitcoin.com does is they keep a signed transaction to send the money back to your wallet. And so if nobody claims the money a month from now or whatever time you specify, Bitcoin.com will then broadcast that signed transaction to the network to send the money back to you. If somebody already has claimed the money, that transaction is invalid. If nobody's claimed the money, it's a valid transaction and the money goes back to you. So I can't wait for next Halloween. I'm going to be giving all of these to trick-or-treaters that show up at my house. Every single trick-or-treater is going to get some Bitcoin Cash, in addition to candy, of course. And if they don't claim it, the money comes back to me, so I don't have to worry about it like that. So it's a really, really powerful tool to give more Bitcoin Cash to people out there in the world, just like that. And yeah, I guess we'll stop sharing my screen there and see what other people want to say or think about or go from that. I think that's such a powerful tool to spread adoption. I'm using it every day to share Bitcoin Cash with people around the world and send it to people via email that have never had any Bitcoin Cash ever before. It's such a great way to do that.
So do you get any feedback on what people do with it?
So occasionally people have. Actually, one of the most interesting pieces of feedback I had recently was from a guy that I hadn't bumped into for more than 20 years, actually, and he emailed me. And he said, Roger, do you think you were at Santa Clara University around 1999 or 1998 at a debate on the income tax? And were you giving out books on economics to the people that were at the debate? And he described the situation there, and absolutely, it was me. I was giving out, I think, economics in one lesson, or maybe the Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Anyhow, this kid was like 15 years old who was at the debate, and I was only maybe 18 or 19 or 20 years old there. But apparently, he remembered the guy's first name was Roger, and then he saw me in the cryptocurrency space and everything that I was saying and doing. He reached out to me and he said, do you think that was you? Are you the same Roger that gave me this book? And it said him, it changed his whole, or it definitely influenced his whole path in life. And he wound up studying all sorts of economics. And now he's like, I think, a philosophy professor at a university, but a big time libertarian guy at this point, because he received a free copy of, I think he said it was The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith from me there. But I thought it was interesting that, 20 plus years later, he reached out to me and said, are you the same Roger that gave me this book when I was 15 years old, 20 plus years ago at Santa Clara University, when I think he was a junior high school student at the time, or maybe, freshman in high school when he was there visiting. And I'm sure it was me, because I was there, and I know I had bought a bunch of books with my own money to give out to people because I wanted to spread these ideas. So it was really neat how, it kind of comes full circle. And now this guy's a big Bitcoin Cash fan as well, and doing things out there in the cryptocurrency space as well. So it's kind of you never know what seeds you plant in the world that are going to grow into big giant trees. And he's a university professor now, I think, and so he's spreading these ideas to his students there as well. So it's really fun to see the way that this sort of thing can spread across the world. So I really invite you. Halloween's coming up. It's not that far away. give every single trick-or-treater a little bit of Bitcoin Cash in addition to some candy, and you never know what seeds are going to be spread, right? Maybe it won't be the trick-or-treater itself. Maybe it's the father or the mother or the uncle or aunt of the trick-or-treater, but you never know what seeds are going to be spread. And so all the time too, I see people that contact me, or I see them posting online and said, Roger, I met you at PorcFest in 2012 and you gave me some Bitcoin, or I met you somewhere else and you gave me some Bitcoin, and it's changed my whole life. Thank you for doing that. So like, yeah, I'm doing that, but I want all of the rest of you to do that too. So please help us out in doing that, because you never know what's going to get started just by doing that. A simple thing like giving away some Bitcoin Cash to people that you've never met. So pay it forward, please.
So you're not just Bitcoin Jesus going around handing out Bitcoin, but also Adam Smith.
If I could have chosen the name myself, I think maybe like Bitcoin Johnny Appleseed would be a little bit more appropriate. I'm trying to plant the seeds of cryptocurrency adoption around the world.
So we have a question from the chat. What are your favorite SLP token projects?
Security tokens, without any doubt whatsoever, but there's some legal barriers to launching those sorts of things that I'm actually busy working on trying to overcome those legal barriers so that the entire world can go into SLP security tokens that are, people in any country can be allowed to buy fully legally without any problems there. So I think that's my favorite. At the moment, probably the most, love or hate Tether, or, believe them or don't believe them for their reserves. But like, I think Tether on SLP is a really, really, really big deal. So if you've ever been using Tether on Ethereum or some other chain, swap out your Ethereum ERC20 tethers for SLP tethers, and then ask the different businesses that you're doing business with, say, hey, can you support SLP deposits for Tether or withdrawals for Tether? And I think that'll really make a big deal, because, Ethereum's awesome. I love Ethereum. I don't have anything bad to say about Ethereum other than they're actually having real network congestion problems in the Ethereum. I think I made an Ethereum network transaction this morning, actually, and let me pull it up and see. I think that I don't have it open right now, but I think the fee was a whole $1 to make a transaction on the Ethereum network there as well. Whereas if I could have done that on Bitcoin Cash SLP tokens, it's 20th of a penny. So, and then I'd have an extra $1 that I could give away on a live stream to people in Bitcoin Cash as well. So a $1 saved or a Bitcoin Cash saved is a Bitcoin Cash earned. So anything you can do to save some additional crypto in that sense is a good thing.
Right. Another question. What would you like to see happen by next year's BCH Fork Day anniversary?
So probably not the answer people are expecting. What I would like to see happen, which I think would just be so philosophically interesting. So like, if you know anybody, get the word out. So like, first of all, the Silk Road was an amazing thing that got Bitcoin started. If it wasn't for the Silk Road, I don't think cryptocurrency would be anywhere near where it is today, if anything at all. Like, that was an absolutely amazing catalyst to start all of cryptocurrency. And it's an absolute travesty what's happened to, Ross Holbrook for setting up this amazing website that allowed people to be able to buy and sell things without needing permission from government. If you think that's horrible, for those that don't know, double life sentence in prison. He's condemned to die in prison for having built this website. If you think that's horrible, head on over to freeross.org, sign the petition. You can read more about it. You can make a donation in Bitcoin Cash or any other cryptocurrency over there. But what I would like to see happen now is there's lots of additional darknet markets. It didn't stop them at all. There's more darknet market commerce happening than ever before. If you're looking at life in prison, where they're going to sentence you to prison until you die for doing this sort of thing, you might as well have an illegal IPO while you're at it. And so Bitcoin Cash with SLP tokens have built all the tools that one of these darknet markets would need in order to have an illegal IPO. So you can then share, you can sell equity, or maybe just give away some equity in your darknet market to people all over the world using SLP tokens. And then you can share part of the revenue from your darknet market with on-chain dividends using the Bitcoin Cash dividend payment tool that's all free and open source. You can use it right there. You don't even have to be a coder. Just go to mint.bitcoin.com and you can do it click, 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 click. It's all open source software anybody can use. I want to see a darknet market have an illegal IPO and sell some of their equity to the public as a Bitcoin Cash SLP token. I think that would be incredibly interesting. I'm not going to have anything to do with it myself because I don't want any legal trouble myself, but philosophically, I think that would be so amazing, so interesting, so cool to do. So anybody that knows anybody that might be interested in doing that, get the word out. You can have an illegal IPO on Bitcoin Cash right now today. I think that's really, really interesting. And I think it's going to be kind of the same thing. We're starting to see the end of the ability for governments to control the flow of capital. Soon we're going to see the end of, government entities like the SEC have the ability to control who has IPOs and who sells equity and in what sort of businesses. And again, buyer beware, right? Don't invest in some sort of shady IPO on the internet for somebody. It's super high risk to buy stock or equity in a darknet market. It's probably not the best investment, but boy, is it interesting philosophically, the fact that now people can have IPOs and it's beyond the reach of regulatory entities. And I think it's going to lead to more people being careful with what you're doing. And the regulatory bodies don't stop fraud one bit whatsoever. Look at Bernie Madoff, right? He was like the head of a regulatory compliance body, and it was one of the biggest ripoffs ever. So don't think that it can't happen with these regulatory bodies. It happens all the time, and it'll happen with cryptocurrency related things as well. So like at the end of the day, it's up to the end user to be really careful with what they do with their own money. Don't lend millions of dollars or even $100 to strangers on the internet. Be really careful with that sort of thing. But that's what I would like to see happen by next year, because I think it would drive another huge wave of cryptocurrency adoption around the world when people realize that you can have equity markets beyond the control of any jurisdiction, and it can't be shut down, can't be frozen. People can pay the dividends right there on chain to anybody who wants to receive them or anybody that owns the tokens. So it's a really big deal that I think people haven't fully realized just how powerful a tool that is. So that's what I'd like to see happen. I think the question was probably geared more towards the Bitcoin Cash protocol itself. So to answer that question, what I would like to see happen by next year, I'd like to see the 50 unconfirmed transaction chain limit raised to a lot higher or gotten rid of altogether. Now I'd like to see the block size raised to something significantly bigger than 32 megabytes. Let's get it up to a gig or multiple gigs with or no limit or adjustable limit. And then you can have a soft cap where all the miners are just running off software that's configured. Okay, we're not going to make blocks that are bigger than 8 or 32 or 64 megabytes, but we know that it's already built right there into the protocol where they can just remove their soft limit to be as big as it needs to be as the network grows and as the software is improved. Just like Bitcoin had in the early days, they had the 1 megabyte limit, but all the miners were running nodes that limited it to 100 kilobytes or 250 kilobytes or half a megabyte before they finally bumped into that 1 megabyte limit. I'd like to see that limit raised to 30, something bigger than 32 megabytes, so that the business developers can go out there into the world and say, hey, Bitcoin Cash already has the ability to support 1 gigabyte blocks or whatever that number happens to be, that could potentially support up to however many thousands of transactions per second that works out to be. So those are the two main things I would like to see. And of course, making unconfirmed transactions as safe as possible, as fast as possible, whether it's via Avalanche or some other mechanism. I think that's a really big deal as well, because if you go and use something like Ethereum or Ripple or something like that, wow, you get credited at the exchange much faster than most exchanges credit you with Bitcoin Cash at the moment. So we need to compete on that front as well. So those are the main things I'd like to see happen by next year.
Okay. Z-Way asks, what do you think of building DeFi on Bitcoin Cash?
Yes, and more yes. Go and take a look at the general protocols guys that are working on exactly that. I think that's another really big deal that people don't fully appreciate, that all this is coming to Bitcoin Cash as well. So check out general protocols. I think it's .cash. It might be .com. I'm sure I have it open in one of my many tabs here. I have too many tabs open all the time is the only downside. So.
Yeah, I'm not finding it.
Generalprotocols.com. That's good news. So yeah, check out generalprotocols.com. They're working on exactly that for Bitcoin Cash. And I'm really excited about that. Or actually, their other site that maybe you're already familiar with, George, is anyhedge.com. And that's their product as well. So can't wait for those guys to launch. Although they reached out to me recently, like, please don't change the targeted block time from something other than 10 minutes because that screws up all sorts of the stuff that apparently these guys are working on. So there's no advantage that I can see any business being in favor of making the block time go from 10 minutes on average to targeting 11 minutes on average. And there's lots of minor inconveniences that I'm aware of, and maybe some major inconveniences to people that are trying to build. So please don't change that. This is from one business developer, a request to the software developers. There should be a really strong business or technical reason to change it from 10 to 11 minutes. And I'm not aware of one. I haven't heard one. I watched all the videos about it with the discussions recently. Please don't change the targeted Bitcoin block time from 10 minutes to 11 minutes. It certainly shouldn't be a longer than 10-minute block time. If you want to change it from 10 minutes to something shorter, I think that's a discussion very well worth having. I can't see any benefit to making it longer. There isn't one that I'm aware of or that I can see.
So on that topic, a question from Crypto Panda. Do you think, Roger, that the donation-based model for software development is sustainable?
Yes, we're like 12 years into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. I think part of the reason that Bitcoin Core went off the rails is they had too much outside money from outside of the community, right? You had Blockstream raised $100+ million from traditional finance companies to build a product that would only be monetizable if Bitcoin was strangled on chain or at the base layer. So nobody needs side chains or liquid or lightning stuff if Bitcoin was allowed to scale on chain. So that's exactly what happened. A bunch of outside money came in, strangled it. So I think community-based donations for development is probably the best way to keep the community on track. Because if you get a bunch of money from outside, that corrupts it. Or if you have a bunch of money coming from the block reward getting diverted, we've seen how that can cause all. We saw it the last time around. That there was just a huge amount of infighting. Who gets the money? Who decides where the money goes to? Everybody's busy arguing about that rather than actually building things. So I think a voluntary donation-based method from people that support the industry and are building in the industry, I think that's the best way to do things going forward. And we're seeing that right now with the mainnet.cash, or I just said the name a moment ago. Let's see. Mainnet.cash. Flip started up mainnet.cash. They've raised 332 Bitcoin Cash so far towards their goals. That's about $10,000. About $100,000, right? So, about $100,000 they've raised out of a target that initially was $175,000, but the price of Bitcoin Cash has gone up a little bit. But I think that's a fantastic example. If you haven't looked at their Flipstarter and what they want to build in terms of developer tools, I'm very confident that the community is going to come up with enough money for them to do that. And then we're going to have a really powerful suite of software developer tools that'll make it even easier for people all over the world to build on top of Bitcoin Cash. I do think that voluntary community-based fundraisers are a fantastic way to fund the future development of Bitcoin Cash. And I'm a big, big fan of those.
Okay, and last question for Roger. What do you think of the African space when it comes to adoption?
Yeah, I think we would have to ask somebody in Africa that has their finger on the pulse there. So I haven't lived in Africa. I'm not African, so I don't know a whole lot about it, other than I've met a lot of really passionate people in Africa that have been reaching out to me saying they're big Bitcoin Cash fans because they can't afford to pay the fees, or they don't want to pay the high fees on Bitcoin or other chains. And so they're starting to use platforms like local.bitcoin.com and Bitcoin Cash because it gives them a better user experience. There was another guy I did like a chat with, the Bitcoin Meister, Adam Meister, or something like that. And he looked at me with a straight face. He says, no, I've been to Africa, or I've been to places in the world. People don't mind waiting in line for hours and hours. They don't care at all. And like, I thought, what world are you living in to think that people don't mind waiting in line for hours in other countries? Nobody wants to wait in line. And they don't want to wait in line at a bank, and they don't want to wait in line on the blockchain for inclusion in a block, and they don't want to pay high fees at the bank, and they don't want to pay high fees for inclusion in a blockchain either. They want fast, cheap, reliable payments, and that means not having to wait. And Bitcoin Cash is fantastic at delivering those things, and that's why we're seeing more people in Africa and around the world starting to pay more attention to Bitcoin Cash, because it provides a great user experience, but it needs to provide a better user experience, not better than just Bitcoin, or not just better than the banks, but better than all these other cryptocurrencies out there. So we need to really focus on building that infrastructure and doing that. And I think we're doing a pretty good job, but let's pick up the pace and do it even faster. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of people spend too much time talking about things rather than doing things. I'd like to see more doing than talking. But you need to talk enough to figure out what it is that you need to do. So,
indeed, people in the developing world are not fans of waiting in line any more than anybody else. And in fact, all the bureaucracy here that causes people to wait in line, it just wastes people's lives away. Time that they could be using to, for their health, for learning, spent in lines. It's terrible.
There was another book I read 20 plus years ago, and I think it was this book that had the concept, and it was The Mainspring of Human Progress by Henry Grady Weaver. And it's not a very well-known book, but it was a really interesting eye-opening book. And in that book, he talks about how each human is alive or has 24 hours in a day. You need to spend 6, 7, 8 of those hours sleeping. So then you have another 18, 16, somewhere in that ballpark of hours each day. And he talks about human energy, right? You have a certain amount of human energy that you're able to expend to do things each day. And if you have to spend part of that human energy waiting in line at a government office for something or other, or waiting in line at a bank for something, or doing something, that's human energy that wasn't able to be expended to make more banana chips, right? Or grow more peanuts or nuts and package them up in somewhere. It's human energy that was spent doing something that's no longer available to be spent doing something else. If you spend a bunch of time rounding up a bunch of people who smoked pot and then put them in prison for decades, that's however many millions of man hours, or some huge number of human energy that's no longer able to be used to actually make the world a better place, because it was diverted to doing something that doesn't make the world a better place. And so it's true with all these cryptocurrencies. We want to make them as fast and cheap and reliable, as convenient as possible, so that you have to spend the least amount of human energy focusing on that, and then you have human energy available to figure out how to build a better car, or a better rocket to go into space, or a better internet system for the world that's orbiting in space for people. So like, we want to enable the most efficient use of human energy around the world for as many people as we possibly can. And cryptocurrencies are a huge step forward in that, but we need to improve them from where they are already, just like we need to improve everything else. So anyhow, it was a fascinating book that influenced my view of the world and human energy. The Mainspring of Human Progress by Henry Grady Weaver. I'm sure you can buy it for 20% off on Purse.io with your Bitcoin Cash. So.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Roger Ver, founder of Bitcoin.com. You're welcome to hang around. We're going to do a panel on adoption next, or I'm sure you're very busy.
I think I'm going to have some breakfast, but I'll be listening to the panel on adoption and be eager to hear what other people think need to be the areas to focus on. And George, I just want to thank you for being such an amazing spokesperson for Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin ABC. You do such an amazing job, and I feel the passion that you have for your involvement in the space every day. So I'm truly appreciative and grateful to you for that. So thank you for that, and keep up the amazing work. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you.
See you.
See ya.